We are going to be making snowmen in the snow. The fun part about this is you get to go on an expedition outside in the snow to find your parts. And I have this that I will show you. I've got this big piece of bark. They were cutting down some trees, and I saved this big piece of bark because this is perfect for the snowman. So you're going to find something that is like this. You can also do small, and I'm going to show you on this one, but this is just a piece of bark, and I glued a pine cone on it so that you have your sort of natural looking snow scene with things that are really from nature. After you have your piece that you're going to work with, you want to figure out what you're going to mount it on, because you do have to mount it, because you have to put your snowmen on. They've got to sit on something. So I cut this off, and then this fits to be the mounting board for this one. All right? After you've got that done, you can decide what you want to put on your piece of bark or whatever. Like I said, I just used a pine cone. You can also get elaborate and use trees or some sort of little sprigs from the floral department. And then you have your base that you're going to do. Next comes the fun part. You're going to be doing your snowman. To do your snowman, you're going to get some styrofoam balls. You're going to cut it off just on the edge. You see how this is smooth on the edge? Because you're going to want to glue them together. And they won't glue together unless you have a nice firm flat surface. Then you glue your snowman together, and I'm going to make a smaller snowman. I'm only going to do one that's two balls high. You can do them 3 balls or even, I guess, more if you wanted to. One of the things that when you're glue gunning styrofoam, it will melt the styrofoam a little bit. And I find that if you press it while it's doing that sort of little melt, then you get a nice, really firm joint there that holds really well. Next, we're going to be using one of my favorite things to use is this Easy Form plaster cloth wrap. Basically, this is what doctors use when they make the cast. It goes by a lot of different names. Plaster cast, this is called Easy Form. This is available in hobby stores. I do know that this is available at Hobby Lobby. And you're going to take, and when you get your Easy Foam, you're going to want to cut it into some smaller pieces. You can see that there's just the cotton mesh there. You just have your gauze, and they've impregnated it with a bunch of plaster. So I have my plaster pieces here. You're going to need to have just a little bit of water. And when you put these on, there's a little bit of a trick to it. You're going to take your plaster piece, you're going to dip it into the water, and then you're going to put it onto your snowman. I always start gradually moving it from the seam so that I reinforce that seam. When you put it on, you notice how I'm smoothing it out. You want to smooth it out because if you don't, you're going to get that texture of the gauze. And you want it to be smooth. Again, make sure you have that seam really covered well and cover the entire piece. After you get your snowman all covered, put him to the side, and then what you're going to do is you're going to make your carrot nose. And I just used the same plaster, move this over so you can see, and just sort of roll it up. And it's the good thing that carrots are lumpy because you don't really have to worry too much about how good you get it to look. And you can cut it down afterwards. And just get yourself a little, I don't know if you could tell, a little roll up that's going to be your carrot nose, okay? And then you wait for that to dry, and we do the next step. Our next step is to put our glitter onto our snowman. And to do this, you're going to use some glue, some white paint, and you're going to mix them. And I honestly can't tell you that there's a specific amount that you're going to need for it. I think you put in, that looks like about a tablespoon of glue. You add a little bit of water to the glue, probably about the same amount, so about a tablespoon of water. You're going to mix that up really good. That is the key. You do want to make sure that it's mixed up. And then you add your paint. And you're going to want to get probably about 2 good globs. And you mix that all together into a nice slurry. The key is making sure that it is really mixed up well. After you get your glue, your paint, and the water mixed up into a really nice sort of creamy consistency, you're going to want to put it all over your snowman. You probably want to stay away from the bottom. Remember, you can always add more. Get him all slimy. And then the next thing that you do, and I actually use a spoon to do this, is you start rolling him around as you're putting on your snow. And then you have your snowman. You let him dry, and then we'll move on to our next part. This is one that's dry, and you go ahead and you paint your carrot nose that you've made from before. Again, you can cut it if it isn't exactly looking the way you want it. You can always cut it off and then paint it, because I see I have a little tail here, and you can get it to look much more like a carrot. As you see, we have a perfect little carrot type nose here. And I have some noses here that I've done from before. You paint them orange. And then you're going to be working on your eyes. Now, you can put the eyes on in many different ways. The way that I chose to do this is to take, I used some black sparkly paper, but you could use just black. Used a hole punch, cut out a black eye. I use the sparkly paper because it kind of looks like coal, so that's why I use that. And then what you're going to want to do, this is an artist trick, is you're going to want to take a toothpick and put a dot of white on your eye. That gives it that, it does that like reflection that makes it look much more alive. And so all of these have their little dots on their eyes, as you can see. The next is a secret that I will tell you. I have found that there is nothing better in the world than pool noodles. You can use pool noodles for so many things. I take a pool noodle, I cut off a little section of the pool noodle, and then what I do is I use this as a base to put my snowman on. What I found is if I glue this directly on things, it doesn't really hold. It doesn't sit right. But if I put it on a pool noodle and give it a little extra padding, it will work really well, and all your snowmen will then stand up nice and straight and tall, and that will be easy when you are putting them on your base. Your base with the cardboard, with the tree and everything. Again, I need to make sure that you're aware that when you use a glue gun with pool noodles, they do sort of disintegrate and melt. So I do push down for a little bit so that it kind of forms a real nice, and you see how well he stands up. We have our all of our little guys ready to go now. And then what you do is you get your base that you've created. You glue this onto your base very carefully, and then you arrange your little snowmen however you want to have them. And the reason that I did 4 is because then I give them little signs to say snow. These little, I don't know what you want to call them, blackboard signs are fairly expensive if you buy them at, let's say, a hobby store. Again, if you buy them at Dollar Tree, you get 4 for $1. So I would recommend that. They also have a nice little pokey thing on the bottom. So when you want to put them in and you've got your little snowmen all ready to go, all you have to do is just poke them into your foam board bottom here. And they're ready to go. I added some snowflakes on the side of my letters. And then once you get these all arranged, you're going to want to glue them down. You're going to want to put a drop of glue in your hole and then put this in. And then comes the tricky part where you're going to want to take and put all of your little snowmen are going to need their little hands on them. And that's going to be a little tricky because what you're going to do is you're going to glue this on and then you're going to glue it onto your letters that you get here, so that you have, and you can kind of figure out how you're going to get them glued on so that it looks like they're holding their sign. And as you can see, all the little snowmen now have their arms glued on and the sign, and you have your finished product. It's a really pretty display that you can put up on your mantle or on a shelf for January. And as it's cold outside, you can look at your cute little snowmen. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time.